The Paris Air Show is perhaps the world's premier aviation showcase. A chance for top flight pilots to show off their skills in cutting-edge aircraft. Audiences at the air show of 1989 are enthralled as a Russian pilot demonstrates the climbing abilities of his country's newest fighter jet. Suddenly, something goes terribly wrong. The crowd is stunned. Little do they realize that what they just witnessed is more a miracle than a disaster. The fighter that crashed is the twin-engine MiG-29, the latest model in a long line of Russian-built fighters. Animosities of the Cold War had prevented such public demonstrations of Russian warplanes, but the Paris Air Show marked a change. With the Cold War over, the Russians could show off their military aircraft for potential sales to other countries. Dave North, editor-in-chief of Aviation Week and Space Technology, says the MiG-29 is state-of-the-art and competitive with Western-made jet fighters.
A fighter like the MiG-29 is really like driving a sports car versus a passenger bus. I mean, to me, that's a DC-10. And the MiG-29 is a Corvette or a Ferrari.
Anatoly Kvocher is one of his country's top test pilots. He knows there is pressure to showcase the MiG's capabilities, but he's determined not to let down his fellow countrymen as he takes off on the first day of the show.
It was quite warm. Birds were flying around. Just a typical nice summer day. The flight proceeded as planned. We did all the tricks exactly according to our flight plan.
He has two more stunts before he ends his performance. First, there's a steep vertical climb and then a quick flip before landing. But just as he pulls out of a low-altitude, slow-speed pass, there's trouble.
When I attempted to increase the pressure, my right engine failed, and all my sensors went off, and the nose of the aircraft experienced a sharp swing to the right.
The twin-engine jet quickly loses airspeed as it veers right. It's flying too slow to stay aloft with just one engine. He desperately tries to restart the disabled engine and maneuver the jet clear of the crowds below.
That's when the situation got complicated. Of course I wanted to survive this thing, but I couldn't just eject, not knowing what would happen to all those people.
The disabled engine won't fire. Critical seconds tick by as he tries to steer the plane away from the crowd below. Now Anatoly has but a split second to save his own life. At an altitude of only 100 feet, he pulls the release handle of his ejector seat. 2 seconds later, the jet plunges nose first into the airfield, a mere 50 feet from Anatoly.
It was just a strange feeling, so silent. The feeling of stillness even as the plane was crashing and I was rushing towards the ground.
Few observers believe Anatoly can survive such a brutal landing. But he does, because his ejector seat is designed to protect pilots in crash situations, even at ground level.
The recommended altitude for ejection is almost any altitude that you feel you have to get out.
Today's sophisticated ejector seats function like mini aircraft and work even on the landing field. When the pilot pulls on the handle of the MiG's ejection seat, the cockpit canopy flies back and a pyrotechnic thrust unit shoots the seat clear of the aircraft. At the same time, a pair of rockets propel the seat as far as 200 feet before the pilot's main parachute deploys. Once the chute opens, the seat drops away, allowing the pilot to glide to the ground. Since his jet was perpendicular to the ground, The ejector rockets throw him away from the jet in a horizontal direction, preventing him from falling into the fireball. His parachute opens just enough to slow down his speed, but he still lands hard on his side in the grass. Anatoly, though badly bruised, escapes with only minor injuries, as he demonstrates to reporters at a press conference the following day.
Very glad to see you here in this largest...
Nobody could have believed it. It was a beautiful sunny day, and I felt like my life had begun all over again.
An investigation, which includes footage shot with an infrared camera, eventually finds that the accident was caused by a bird sucked into the MiG's right engine. When this happens, there is a flare in the engine's exhaust, and the damaged engine shuts down immediately. MiG engines normally have systems that protect them from birds, but only during takeoff and landings. The unusually low altitudes they fly during air shows make them vulnerable.
A bird is a mass, and you put a mass into either an airplane or an engine, and it can cause destruction.
The Paris debut of the MiG-29 is a disappointment for the Russians. But the near tragedy does demonstrate that Russian ejector seat technology is effective in even the most perilous situations. The crash also shows us the vulnerability of even high-tech jet fighters to something as small as a bird in the wrong place at the wrong time. The annual air show, held at the American Air Force Base at Ramstein-Miesenbach in southern Germany, is the largest in Europe. Held annually since 1955, it regularly draws crowds of 300,000.
It was a way for the United States Air Force and other NATO forces to show the local people, Germans, Italians, French, exactly how they do what they do.
Mark Duplasco and his family lived at Ramstein, where he worked as an air traffic control officer. The day before the 1988 show, he videotapes the teams practicing.
It's the Italian demonstration.
I've never thought of these air shows as being dangerous. The intent is for it to look dangerous and to thrill the crowd into thinking it is dangerous. But these are very precise maneuvers.
Look at that.
The show takes place on a perfect summer day. Serviceman Jeff McCanch, his wife, and 2-year-old son JJ arrive early to get good seats.
It was a beautiful day. My son loved airplanes, and it was a way to get away from home and just to get out.
The airfield is packed with spectators. Jeff and his family watch from front row seats, just a few hundred yards from the runway. Excitement mounts when the Italian team, the Tricolored Arrows, are announced. Known for daring team maneuvers, they are the day's grand finale.
Most of the crowd then gathered at the show center to see what was supposedly the most thrilling and exciting of all the shows.
Nobody had gone home early. Everybody was sitting there waiting for them to perform.
The Italians are flying high-speed Ermacchi ground attack jets, modified for close formation flight. Their first display is the spectacular pierced heart maneuver. Although the pilots use computerized cockpit displays to read their speed and altitude, they rely on their eyes and skill to pass within mere feet of each other. The planes shoot up into the sky as the announcer follows the action.
Coming in front of us, climbing up and splitting in two sections, drawing in the sky the shape of a heart that would like to represent, in our concept, the love that we brought all over the world.
5 planes circle one direction, 4 the other way, to outline the heart. A solo plane breaks off to intersect the heart at the bottom and fly out over the crowd. But something goes terribly wrong. The solo plane clips the wings of 2 others and crashes into the crowd at 500 miles per hour. It spews burning jet fuel over spectators who had moved to the edge of the runway to get a better view.
We were only 30 feet away, and with no time to move, no time to do anything, the only thing that goes through your mind is, I'm going to die.
It was just horrible. He sliced through the crowd. The flames spread out through the crowd, and there was quite a lot of smoke, a lot of screaming.
The mid-air collision also sends the other two jets into a blazing crash across the runway, killing the pilots. The path of death and destruction is unequaled in the history of air shows. Emergency vehicles and burn units race to the scene of the Ramstein air show disaster. Jeff McCanch and his wife are blown back by the explosion created by the solo plane, but the shockwave lifts their tiny son's baby basket and carries him away. Jeff rushes back to find his baby. He is amazed to find JJ still lying on their charred blanket. As Jeff grabs his son to his chest, a photographer catches the incredible moment on film.
I don't have any idea how I found my son. He was just there. I can't explain it to this day. It's like somebody up above had guided me to him.
JJ is badly burned and in shock as Jeff carries him to safety. Up in the control tower, Mark DePlasco has his hands full. The Italian pilots still in the air have just watched 3 of their teammates die and now have no place to land.
They were very, very upset. And so we were trying to calm them down and coordinate their recovery into another airbase. Then we immediately focused our attention on the obvious large number of people that were injured. We knew we were going to have an incredible effort to air evac badly burned individuals.
Right after the accident, there was total pandemonium. People trying to just get out of the area. People running everywhere, not knowing which way to go. People screaming, people on fire. And to listen to that, and I can still hear a lot of that noise in my head.
Dozens in the crowd are killed on impact. Scores more are burned. But many of the spectators react heroically. Some who are themselves burned pull others to safety. Some desperately search nearby barracks for sheets to use as bandages. Families search frantically for their loved ones. JJ is rushed to a nearby hospital.
It's hard because you know that's your son laying on that bed, and he's wrapped almost from head to toe in bandages from his burns.
Although JJ has burns over 25% of his body, he survives.
And knowing that the next day we were going to be medevac back to the United States to go to the military's best burn unit was a big relief.
Ultimately, 70 people die and 500 more are hospitalized.
One of the eeriest feelings that we had was to see the scattered remaining cars that were in the parking lot because of the folks that were injured or killed.
By studying home videos and stills taken at the scene, investigators determined that the two main groups successfully passed each other, but that the solo pilot misjudged his path and came in too low and too soon. After several operations to repair his burns, J.J. McCanch is now a healthy young boy with little memory of the accident. But it is a day his father will never forget.
It has changed my life dramatically. It's totally amazing that we survived, knowing that there was people all around us that perished in that. And you learn to respect life a whole lot more.
Mark DePlasco remained an air traffic controller for several more years, but the tragedy at Ramstein haunts him.
I just will never forget how quickly it can go from being an absolutely beautiful day to complete disaster in a moment.
The Italian air team still performs in air shows, but not at Ramstein. That air show has been canceled for good. Other air shows have learned from the Ramstein disaster. New international safety reforms now keep flying planes at least 1,500 feet from the spectator line. They are not allowed to fly over or even toward the crowd. For those who were there, it might be some consolation that the investigation into the Ramstein accident may help prevent similar tragedies in the skies. Fairchild Air Force Base, Spokane, Washington. A B-52, the biggest bomber ever built, takes a practice flight in preparation for an air show. On board are 4 airmen. At the controls is a man some say is the best B-52 pilot in the Air Force, Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Bud Holland. Ironically, his co-pilot is a man who is trying to get Holland grounded as reckless. After completing a series of banks and low-altitude maneuvers, Colonel Holland turns the aircraft into a very steep turn, circling the tower one last time before landing. Then, the unbelievable happens. Spectators cry out in disbelief. Another angle shows the huge bomber flying too low. It loses lift and drops quickly, clipping a high-voltage power line. The bomber narrowly misses a munitions bunker and barracks housing dozens of soldiers. The entire crew is killed. Sadly, it's a crash foreseen by the plane's co-pilot, Lieutenant Colonel Mark McGeehan. His father, Richard McGeehan, says his son predicted Holland would kill someone with his daredevil flying. He says his son was on board to make sure Holland flew safely, because other airmen were afraid to fly with him.
They were scared of him. They didn't want to ride with him. That's why they complained to my son, who was a squadron commander, and he took care of the men that served under him.
Arnie Weinman was a B-52 pilot and former base commander who flew several times with Bud Holland.
He was excellent. He was outstanding. And in all of my flights with him, well, he was aggressive. That's what we wanted in our military flyers and B-52s.
But according to local journalist Jim Camden, Holland had a reputation for unsafe flying.
As the wife of one of the younger pilots told us, he could fly the fire out of a B-52. And he had a reputation for being able to do things with it that nobody else could. He also had a reputation for being reckless and doing some things that you should not do with a B-52.
Even his former commander, Arnie Weinman, had to reprimand him once. 3 years before the crash, he asked Holland to fly over the edge of the runway during a base ceremony. But Holland did something that caused people to flee in fear.
He chose to overfly the parade ground where we were doing this exchange, and much, much too low. And I called him in and gave him a verbal reprimand. We thought that would be the end of it.
But it wasn't.
Felt a little wind on that one.
Just weeks before the crash, a photographer asks Holland to perform some low-altitude flyovers. Weinman is retired by now, but Holland's new superior okays the flight.
You got it, Vigil.
Colonel Holland shows his remarkable skill by flying the massive bomber just a few dozen feet above the valley floor, then below the ridgeline to the photographer's position. Days later, Holland's crew files complaints of reckless flying. Holland is reprimanded for flying too low by his superiors, but they allow him to continue flying. Colonel McGeehan, Holland's squadron leader, is afraid Holland's antics will lead to tragedy and tries to have him grounded for good.
Mark was always a man that when something had to be done, he did it. And there had to be something done about Holland, and he took the only course he had. He went to his superior officer and asked him to be grounded.
His commander disagrees, but McGeehan vows to fly with Holland from then on to keep him within Air Force regulations. Their next flight together is the practice run before the air show. Holland is piloting, and Colonel McGeehan is the co-pilot on their final flight.
They were coming in for a landing, and they were basically waved off. There was something else on the runway, and so they were told to go around.
The plane goes into a steep left turn 300 feet from the ground. It stalls briefly, but Holland recovers by straightening it out. The plane then turns into a steeper and much more dangerous angle.
The 52 Light with 8 engines can easily hold 60-degree bank angles. You just don't do them low down because there's no margin for error.
But the bomber is at a 90-degree angle, just 200 feet from the ground. At that angle, the plane stalls again and loses lift because there's not enough air moving over the wing to keep the plane aloft.
Some of us that have flown a great deal and have flown a great deal with Colonel Holland find it hard to believe that he would have gotten into that position.
Experts speculate he made the steep turn to avoid flying over the base's munitions bunker. Doing so is dangerous and a safety infraction so serious a pilot can be grounded for it.
Around the tower.
Realizing he is going to crash, McGeehan ejects just as the plane's wingtip cuts through several power lines, but he's too late to save himself. The enormous bomber crashes into a field just beyond the barracks. Flight controllers never hear a distress call from the plane, and what happened inside the cockpit between Holland and McGeehan during the final seconds will never be known. For security reasons, military aircraft do not carry cockpit voice and flight data recorders, as required on large commercial planes. But the conflict was a basic one, pitting a hotshot flyer against an officer who refused to compromise safety.
He wasn't going to fly according to the rules. It's one thing that he had against Mark, because Mark flew according to the book.
The ensuing investigation blames the accident on unsafe flying by Colonel Holland and on a failure to discipline him earlier. The base commander who allowed Holland to fly is stripped of command. And as for Mark McGeehan, some say he died a hero for trying to rein in a dangerous flyer, even though doing so cost him his life.